This one in particular night, we were watching a ghost show.
Oh, it's dripping. It's like slime. That wasn't there when we walked in.
There are a lot of shows that are searching out the psychic answers or the ghost stories, things like that.
If there's anyone there, give us the signal.
We were watching a ghost show, and I enjoy mocking the show.
Give us the signal. What's that?
I love these shows.
So Bill decided that he'd kind of do what the host was doing and kind of called out a spirit to say, hey, let us know you're here.
Give us the signal.
Is anyone in this house? Send us a signal.
Bill, what is that?
What just knocked on our front door on cue so hard that it would vibrate the floor?
No.
He went to check out to see what was on the deck.
There's nobody out here.
That was definitely the thing that shook me. I mean, because it was right there. It happened right then. Bill and I were right there. And my mind is trying to tell me it's nothing, but then your heart and your emotional side say differently. So yeah, right now, it's a little scary out there. Definitely a little scary out there.
There's nothing out there.
We're looking at each other like, what was that?
What was it?
I don't know. It was dark, but there was nothing out there.
There was nothing there. But at that point, my reaction still, oh, maybe it was a tree limb. And he's like, Sharice, there's nothing out there.
I try to, calm my wife down.
There's nothing there.
My mind doesn't want to really go that there's some entity, ghost, spirit, whatever, up there playing around with us. I don't really want to go there, but I mean, it's kind of like, I'm not sure what other explanation there is.
I'm like, look, darling, we need to really kind of get our heads wrapped around what's going on up here because there's a very distinct possibility that this place is haunted. I had never feared the Red River Gorge. I used to go out there like with a sleeping bag and a guitar when I was 18 years old and wake up and see where I was, and it was this beautiful view in the morning. And I never had a gun. I never had to worry about arming myself. I was never really fearful of the place. And now we're aware that there could be something that we can't explain roaming those woods.
The cabin itself and where it's located makes you a little bit nervous to be out there by yourself. There are just things we can't explain and we can't understand. And you have to go, yeah, that's something, I can't explain it, and let's try not to be afraid of it.
We're not crazy. We're not paranoid. We're just good people that have a good heart that came up to this cabin with some goodwill. We don't have answers, and we want answers. That's the only reason I'm sharing this story with you, is that I want answers.
how are you?
I have showed it to at least 150 people. I'm like taking my iPhone in there and saying, man, have you ever seen anything like this in your life? No. This is the footprint that nobody can identify. This is my footprint here, which is about a size 12, and it's right directly next to the print that we found. When we initially first saw the footprints, what struck me was the claws that come off the side, the weird anomalies in the front, and the huge claw in the front.
Look, here's another one. Look at that, huh?
Notice it's not leaving too much back here, which indicates a downward imprint. Of course, Bigfoot, would be more of a bipedal, human-looking print. Some people have emus, but it's the wrong digits, bro. It's not the same.
I mean, it didn't look like the cat paws, the bear paws, anything.
We spent 6 hours together researching on the internet.
I got right into it with him when we started looking for what it could be, and I don't see what it could be. It is something totally different. It's somewhere between a bird and a dinosaur and a big animal. I believe there are creatures out there we haven't seen yet. I think there's a lot of stuff out there that we don't know. And I just know that there's so much more way deep, that there could be all kinds of things on this earth itself that we can't find or see or even understand.
Even the woodsmen that I've showed could not explain this. The locals had never seen anything like this. And it continues to be a mystery that we can't explain. The history of this cabin is important. I spent hours researching what it could be. This cabin was built by a gentleman up there that built it for his ailing daughter. Her name was Regina Willis. And I'm like, that's funny. My name is Willis. She stayed in this cabin in the same location where we were, and she passed away in the cabin. And of course, I didn't know any of this when I bought it.
You don't feel safe getting off your front porch at night without having some sort of weapon on you. And that's not only just because of the natural dangers of being in the forest. You never know what could be up there.
Now that I have experienced what I consider to be serious paranormal activity, I've looked at all the evidence online, I've looked at all the shows, I've debunked everything that I can. I've gone from a skeptic to trying to justify all these events.
I probably wouldn't stay there by myself.
The cemetery is about 500 feet from our house.
It's a cemetery that my great-grandfather had started.
There's a lot of graves up there.
There's graves that date back to the 1800s. And there's unmarked graves. I've lived next to that cemetery for my entire life. My grandma was the first person that I had ever known personally that had died, and I had went up to her grave to visit. In the cemetery, there's always this sort of an energy that you could feel, and I've spoke to, other people who have visited, and I've had other people say, yeah, it's a little different. I sat down next to her grave, next to the tree, and I was crying because, very recent.
Hey, Nana. Miss you.
In the cemetery, you can always hear birds chirping, you can hear leaves rustling, you can hear all these different things. All of a sudden, it sort of went quiet. It could be my eyes playing tricks on me. It was like a shadow, very, very fluid, and it's just disappearing. The shadow wouldn't just disappear. At this point, I was thinking, that's not right. The sun is shining, maybe it was a very large bird, a shadow. This creature is probably, 6 or 7 feet tall. It looks like it has this black robe that goes all the way down to the ground. I was scared. I just took off running as fast as I could.
Hey. What's wrong?
I saw something, and I don't know what it was, but it was this figure in a black cloak.
When she come back, she's frightened, she's scared.
It was really scary.
And she's shaking and acting like she can't breathe.
Calm down.
She's trying to cry, but I feel like she can't cry because she's so scared.
Never seen anything like that before.
Look, Kayla, it's probably just the sun playing tricks on your eyes.
She said it was a robed figure. It was very dark, and she could tell it wasn't a person because it was levitating off the ground.
Whatever it was levitating.
It was like it came out of a grave, floated up, floated over to another grave, and then sunk back down into it.
Months passed, and one day, Kaylee came and told me that the dogs were missing.
Where are the dogs? They should be back by now.
I haven't seen them.
Yeah, we're wondering where they're at because usually they're right there in our face.
I was just, sort of annoyed. Come home, stop being out doing what you're doing.
Zoe! Oscar!
I went out and I was just yelling their names.
Zoe! Oscar!
Hey, come back in. They always come back.
Even if they're in the woods, they usually come on down, back to the house.
Zoe! Oscar!
Usually they listen to her calls.
I'm gonna go find them.
I said, hey, I'm gonna go, make a lap up around the property.
I won't be long.
Okay, I'll wait here.
I just stayed up at the house and just kind of watched for them to come back.
Zoe! Oscar!
I yelled for our dogs and they didn't come. That's out of character for my dogs. I didn't hear them barking, I didn't hear them growling, and they're playing and they bark and they growl the entire time they play.
Oscar! Zoe!
We have had, wild animals kill other animals. I was thinking the worst.
Oscar! Zoe! Oscar! Zoe!
All of a sudden, I smelled like rotting flesh. It smelled like there was something dead. My stomach dropped.
Oscar! Zoe!
It made me very, very nauseous.
Zoe! Oscar!
I don't know why, but walking up onto the cemetery,
Zoe!
I was like, this isn't normal again. So I stopped. And it was coming up out of the grave. 7 feet tall, no hands, no feet, no face. This thing, something that's not supposed to be here. I'm just absolutely terrified. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to get back up. I can't get up. I can't run. I turn around and look, and it was already there. I got home, I was hyperventilating.
So finally the dogs come back, very spooked and frightened.
And that's not like my dogs. They're not scaredy cats. Is when the thought crossed that, this thing had lured me out. This thing had wanted me to come out. Just absolutely terrified me. All I could think about was death and nothing being okay. It was very, very negative.
The house was owned by Charles Scudder and Joseph Odom.
These guys are pioneers, man. Their own little utopia.
We were captivated by the story. It was 2 guys that were living off the grid, basically. They built their house out in the middle of nowhere. They didn't have electricity.
Sounds beautiful. Deep in the woods, completely isolated.
Well, they were from Chicago, and they wanted to live in seclusion.
That's what makes it so sad. They were hunted down and murdered.
When we finally get there, we can see a brick gate.
There it is. What? Whoa, Corpsewood Manor.
It's covered in vines. It's overgrown, but we were excited that we had finally found what we were looking for. After we pass through the gate, we see the main structure. It's got 2 walls still standing. The rest of it is rubble. It's overgrown with vines and shrubbery.
Wow. Makes what happened here feel very real. We're in the actual spot this all happened.
No kidding.
Let's get our equipment set up, take some readings.
Sounds good.
This was just supposed to be a day recon trip because we had planned a night investigation for later on that week.
Wow. Look at this, me. Hey, I'm gonna head over here.
We get started?
So the presence of electromagnetic fields, especially in a location that doesn't have any electricity or any devices nearby, can be indicative of paranormal activity. when there's an entity nearby, there could be a temperature drop.
You getting anything yet? No, not here. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Come look at this.
What do you got? What do you got?
That's 37 degrees lower than the atmospheric temperature. That's low. You can feel that.
We got a cold spot. It was extremely cold. It felt like you were sticking your arms into a freezer. So we moved on to other parts of the structure.
Whoa, whoa. There it is again. No way, no way, no way. Come here.
We got another temperature drop.
37 degrees. This isn't happening. That's cold.
It was ice cold.
That's when we started to feel slightly uneasy.
Wow, man.
We felt like we were being watched, like eyes were on us.
Lee? Yeah. I feel like someone's watching us.
Suddenly, we hear footsteps in the woods. I don't see a person. The trees and branches aren't moving. We don't see any movement like that at all.
Let's get out of here.
But yet the footsteps are continuing, and it sounds like they're coming towards us.
We couldn't figure out what it was. We thought it might be an animal. Every time we walked, it walked. If we sped up, it sped up. When we stopped, it stopped.
Whatever it is, it's tracking us.
I mean, you get this feeling. It's hard to explain. You feel like you're in danger.
Did you hear that? Yeah.
I was afraid because we were hearing something that we could not see.
The feeling I had of, a heightened sense of danger. It felt like something was coming out to attack us. I was really on edge. We were 3 miles in the woods from civilization. Nobody lived around the area. So what would somebody else be doing out there? It felt like somebody was gonna come out, but we never saw any movement in the woods. I felt threatened.
This thing was following us. It was terrifying at the moment because what was keeping pace started basically coming around us and overtaking us and going around us. We didn't know what was going to happen. Then we hear whatever it is, it speeds up and goes at a run. And there's a small stream crossing the trail, and there's a splash like a foot. There's nothing there, but you see a splash in this thing.
What the hell? Run.
I was getting out of there in a hurry, and I really felt like if we didn't leave, if we had stuck around, that something would have happened to us.
Go, 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 go. I'm trying, man, I'm trying. Come on!
Go, go, go!
Trying!
Go!
When we get off of the gravel road, I looked at Lee. I said, man, what was that? And who's gonna believe us when we tell this story?
Went over theories about what it could be. Was it an animal? Was it a human? Was it a ghost?
Did research and discovered locals in the area said that they were devil worshippers. They nicknamed the side of the mountain Devil Worship Mountain. This is the closest thing to proof of unknown that I've encountered, and it's the only time I've ever been afraid during any investigation.
It was an old church. We found out later that it was actually an old Spanish missionary. Josh made sure once again that I actually wanted to go out there. So I was like, yeah, no, it's no problem.
And I still kind of held out hope that there was just a little bit of hysteria and Gary was gonna put a stop to it. You know, this is where it stops right here. There ain't gonna be no more shenanigans. He's gonna do this job.
Josh, he had his own shift he had to go work. So I went into the church. Maybe an hour or so later, I started getting tired. So I started falling asleep. It was maybe 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just about all the way asleep. When I feel something grab my ankles. All I could feel was something dry, almost like sandpaper, like dry skin.
Let go!
And then proceeded to try pulling me under the pew. I was scared as hell. And as I'm trying to pull myself out, I can see out of the corner of my eye this big, huge, shadowy figure. And it was like it was standing there laughing. Like it was enjoying what it was looking at. It looked like it had a robe on it. It looked like it had the hood up on the robe as well. It took me about 15, 20 minutes to get free. Once I got free, I jumped out of the pew area into the aisle. When I got to the door, I grabbed the handle and it felt like something pushed it. And it was like I was actually pushing against something. I just kept pushing as hard as I could and it opened. Once I got it open, I jumped outside pretty much. Once I calmed down enough.
Josh, you gotta come get me now.
I got on the phone with Josh, told him what happened, told him to come get me right now. I didn't want to be there.
I walked into the church. Hello? It sounded like footfall, like maybe several people walking through the gravel. Who's there? And I remember hearing somebody saying, "Cómo te llamas?" which is like, what's your name? And I was like, did I just hear that? I was freaked out. I propped the door open with this stone and went to the bathroom, and that's when, things kind of got weird. I heard the stone move, and I thought, how is this possible? It's a pretty heavy stone. There's no way unless somebody moved that stone. So I started announcing my presence.
Hello? Security? Hello?
Come on.
And I ended up having to fumble around in the darkness, which was terrifying in of itself because with my hands out, I was thinking that I was gonna touch something. I was terrified. Come on. So when I got to the front door of the church, obviously it was closed, and I was like, oh God, here we go. And I had known that 3 or 4 guys before me had already had this problem with the door, and I started panicking.
Please, Lord, help me through this.
Felt like something was holding the door closed. And finally, it popped open and I was able to walk out. So I went back to my truck. And the truck wouldn't start, which was another odd occurrence. And I thought, this is crazy. I was stuck. So I grabbed the blanket and I just kind of covered myself up, and I was terrified. I was scared. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a wimp or anything, but I was scared. It wasn't like, oh, my guards said a bunch of stuff, so now I'm scared. No, I was experiencing it full on, what was going on. So I just did my best, try to block it out. There's nothing I could do. I mean, I was trapped. I mean, it's like you're just stuck in the middle of the woods. About 4 o'clock in the morning, looked like a woman with part of her face gone, missing. Her flesh had rotted away. It was horrifying. And when I looked in front of me, there were people standing in front of my truck. I was terrified. And I was trying to start my truck. I felt like whatever was there was draining the battery, preventing me from leaving. I felt like my body was really tired. I felt like I was being drained, that I was being pulled out of my body. You know, like I was gonna be stuck there, you know, and that's a horrifying thing. It was the most helpless I probably had ever felt in my life. I mean, I just kept praying, please, you know, I just wanted to get out of there. And finally, my truck started. I think, you know, my prayers were answered. I drove out, and I'm gonna tell you, it's the longest ride getting back to the highway on that dirt road. My mind was racing 1,000 miles a minute. Like, what did I just see? And there was no more question of, was I just being paranoid and scared because of what the guards had told me? No. That was absolutely something there.
He was shaken up because, like me, he didn't finish the shift either. We found out about the history of the church. He was a Spanish missionary.
And gradually the Spaniards abandoned it, and they used it as a dumping ground for people with leprosy.
They burnt down the church with the people there, and anyone who died before they burnt it down we believe was buried on the property itself. This incident that happened to me at this church was the scariest thing that has ever happened to me. It scares me to talk about it still. I still feel almost like I did when I was there. This is something that I wouldn't wish on anybody. Whether I liked them or not, I wouldn't wish this to happen to anybody else. It was that scary.
I came here in 1975 to go to the University of Texas, and then I became a sergeant with the Austin Police Department, and then later left to go work for a Fortune 50 company. With all the stock options, I was able to retire early. After that, I joined as a volunteer with the Austin School of Film. In my spare time, I would go film out in the woods, out on the lake, especially at night. And I came upon this abandoned lake house out in the middle of the woods. And being a police officer and interested, I couldn't resist. I had to go check it out. But there was no signs, there was no fences, it was standing wide open, it was abandoned. And when I went inside, there was no graffiti, there was no smell from animals, and so it felt to me as if maybe it had just been abandoned.
Is there anybody here? Hello? Is anybody here?
I just felt drawn to it. I don't know why, I just felt drawn to it. I was looking for something that my son and I could do, and I knew he liked those ghost hunter type shows. We had talked about going ghost hunting in the past, but we had never done it. And this opportunity presented itself. So I texted him and said, hey, what do you think? You want to go ghost hunting with me? He said, yeah, sure. And what I expected was that he and I would scare each other and we'd just have a great time. I didn't expect there to actually be anything in there.
Okay, what do we got here? Night fishing.
Yeah. My son and I didn't really have any idea of what we were doing, so we did some research on it and got an idea of what kind of equipment we needed. And so we just grabbed what we could carry. We were just surrounded by woods. It was terrifying, even though we didn't know if there was anything there. We kept straining to hear if there was anything in there, anything for us to worry about. At first, it was quiet, even with your footsteps. The floorboards didn't even creak. At first, it was just a knock here, a knock over there, and then we were hearing sounds we had never heard before. But we're sure that there was an explanation for it, that pipes were shaking or that the wind was causing something.
What is that pounding?
And then it started building into crescendo where it was doing more and more and more knocking and pounding. We kept whispering to each other, what in the world are we hearing? What is this going on? And as we walked, we could feel knocks were underneath our feet and were following us as we went around through the place. And I whispered to my son, I think something's following us. And having been a police officer and been in buildings in the middle of the night and hearing all of the creaking and popping and things that can happen with air conditioning and all of that, I was just convinced that if we looked hard enough, that we would find a natural explanation for all these things.
What was that?
We went downstairs into the basement and the air got really oppressive. And that's where there was a mirror, a gigantic mirror that was behind the bar. And I had my laser temperature gun. Immediately, the temperature dropped all the way below freezing to the point that my gun said error, E-R-R, on it. And then there was a resounding pounding or a knock on the wall. Then I started having a bit of a panic attack that there's something here that I don't understand, because I couldn't find that answer. I got really scared and panicky, and my son was absolutely terrified. I wanted to get to the bottom of what all this was, because at this point I still was not convinced it was paranormal. I was convinced that there was some kind of explanation for it. My son was convinced it was paranormal, and he was literally coming out of his skin. He was terrified of it.
I'm out of here. I can't take any more of this.
And so we literally ran up the stairs. I dropped my son off by his apartment, and I kept all of the equipment. And I went back home and actually put everything up in my desk and got distracted. I had waited, I believe it was several weeks before I actually looked at the footage. Because I understand at this point, I'm still not convinced that anything paranormal was involved. I was very, very skeptical. I loaded all of the footage into my computer and was shocked. I heard a growl, but there was something wrong with the growl. It didn't sound like any animal that I was familiar with. I sat back and just stared at my computer monitor for a long time. From that point on, my son said he is not going back. He just doesn't feel safe. He doesn't know what's in there.
Old Youngs Mill Bridge is in Hogansville, Georgia, not too far from LaGrange. The road that the bridge is on is a really quiet road. Not many people are going down it. It's just lined with trees. I heard that the bridge was haunted. I heard it from a few people, which made me give it more thought and made me also want to go at night, just because I didn't believe it. And we saw what looked like little shadows on the bank of the river next to the bridge. We saw the shadows peeking over for a while, just looking at us. We could see the shadows turning their heads to look at each other, like they were communicating.
Dad, look over there.
And they just went back behind the tree. And they never came back out. We didn't see them anymore. We figured that the shadows were maybe some teenagers playing around down there. My friend had noticed something in the tree. What it seemed like was, the best way that I can explain it, it was a creature that was crouching in the tree, and it was crouching on a tree branch really high up in the tree. The creature looked like it was no more than 2 to 3 feet tall. The best way to describe it is to think of a child, maybe a 2 or 3 year old child, but skinny, very, very unhealthy looking. It looked sickly, and that was the best that I could make out in the moonlight. It was definitely not anything human. It looked like it was looking right at us. It was no more than about 2 to 3 minutes later that we heard howling. Hearing the howling, it kind of was like something out of a movie. It sounds like wolves, but it made no sense. Wolves will usually, one will howl and then another one, and then they all start joining in. But when it happened all at once and stopped all at once, that's what didn't make sense about it. It left this eerie sense lingering in you, giving you chills up your spine, because that was not normal. As if something was mocking us. It felt as if we were being told, haha, there's nothing you can do. We're all around.
Dad, we're scared. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's go. Let's go.
After the howling ended, we all agreed that it was time to go. It wasn't just me and my friend anymore. We were all thoroughly terrified of this place now. We hightailed it to the truck, and we got out of there as fast as possible. The creatures, they felt evil, dark, without love or compassion. They just felt like malicious. It was extremely terrifying, but as time went on, I became more curious of the bridge, and I wanted to know what was out there, and I felt like something was just calling me back there to see what exactly had happened that night, almost as if to be able to confirm to myself that maybe that wasn't real, maybe it was something else. If I can give myself another experience at the bridge and everything goes normal and fine, I can sort of just forget about that one experience. So I went back to the bridge about a year later, and this was with my stepdad. I always see him as that tough, strong, military man that can't be afraid of anything, can't be bothered by anything. We were just kind of chatting and talking, and then suddenly the bridge popped in my head. And I hadn't thought about it in a while, but I knew it would help relieve me of all the fears and wondering thoughts I had of what happened at that bridge if I could just go one more time and see that there's nothing wrong with it. When we got there, it was 5 minutes till midnight. There was no one there, there was no lights, it was just the moonlight. We're talking about how peaceful it was, and then I started thinking about, the stories that I told him about it, and I just happened to point out to the tree that I saw it in. I was like, well, hey, that's where we saw it. And he's like, well, haha, I don't see anything now.
We're just kind of enjoying the night, and I just had this overwhelming feeling over me, like someone was present over my shoulder, like someone was standing between my feet, like someone was right here.
I started heading back over to him. I didn't want to sound crazy and just tell him I feel like someone's watching me. But as I walked over to him, he immediately turned around, grabbed my hand, and started pulling me towards the car.
So I think my mind went more hysterical than logic when it came to the feeling. When you don't see something, but you know it's there, you don't really know how to react to it. You don't know what it's up to. But I wanted to get Han out of there because I didn't know what to expect.
The alarm started going off and the lights start flashing, and you know that now everything around knows where you're at.
Open it!
Trying to unlock it.
I think both of us were in a sense of panic.
I don't know what to do.
That maybe lasted only 30, 45 seconds to maybe a minute at the most, but it felt like forever. When you're exposed and you're in this sense of panic, eventually the doors were unlocked, so we jumped inside, turned the car on, and we immediately drove out of there. We didn't look behind us, we didn't stop.
Midnight.
What?
Midnight.
When we got in the car finally and we're pulling out and we were getting back on the road, it was 3 minutes past midnight. And that's when I started to formulate my own theory that whatever happens there starts at midnight.
Things seem to happen at midnight.
When we first got there was nothing strange going on. It felt fine. But about the time that midnight should have hit was when we started feeling that really bad feeling.
The devil's hour, as people might say it. We got there probably about 5 minutes before midnight, and nothing was going on until midnight had struck. I wanted to get as far away from that area as possible. I kind of knew in the back of my mind that I wasn't going to go back to Old Youngs Mill Bridge ever again.
Got it. Ooh-wee.
Finally, we found a door that was open. We walked in, kind of looked around. There's some artifacts, historical artifacts from the lightkeeper's house.
What was that?
It was a little bit excitement and also a little bit fear because I felt like something could possibly happen.
Look at that. It's creepy.
The strange feeling that we both felt was there was something watching us. You try to go every route possible to debunk things that you hear so you don't feel like you're losing your mind. But there was no doubt in that room, we had something happen to us.
Whoa.
It almost felt like I was doing something wrong. Like I'm coming into someone's home that doesn't want me there. Like I was uninvited. I still couldn't help myself. I want to keep going because I want to find out what was going on inside that house if we could.
I was worried when I left Todd and Jeff inside the house. I just felt so sick to my stomach. There was just this intense negative energy there.
There was this door, but the rest of the house was sealed off, so we couldn't get any other rooms.
Do you hear that?
Yeah. We can hear footsteps, just like a person walking inside that house.
To me, it sounded like something literally slid across the floor, like a table or something.
That place was abandoned for decades. There's no people there. There was no electricity there. There was no water there. There's no way no one could live in that house.
That is when we began recording the audio.
You still were hearing stuff, and I said, what if you turn that door handle?
I shook it.
But the door stayed locked. Even though all this stuff was happening, I still want to push forward. But at that point, everything changed. Like, it got really, really intense. And the feeling of, like, dread. I felt something evil. I don't think it liked us at all. If we would have stayed any longer, I really believe something bad probably could have happened. I thought someone was gonna jump out and grab us.
Todd and I, after we were done taking audio, we got back to the vehicle and Brandy was inside. She was very ready to leave, and we definitely felt like there was something there. You could definitely feel the energy of that place, kind of have the feeling sort of like you're being watched, even though you're very remote and on this island where no one else is.
Let's go, guys.
Yeah, we're going.
Todd and Jeff's face were kind of shocked. It was almost like they were pale white. We couldn't really believe what we experienced there.
We started to move away, and it was just a huge feeling of relief. And the farther that we got away from that place, the better I felt. There was something there that didn't want us there. There was something there that we probably disturbed, that we probably shouldn't have did. I'll never forget that terror, along with excitement. There's just so many emotions that were rolled into that, and it's just unexplainable, unexplainable.
Todd and Jeff were going over the recordings inside of the cabin.
Todd began listening back to the audio.
I put my headphones on and I started going over the audio. And then a voice came across the recording of something I've never, ever heard in my entire life.
You should be like I told you to go.
I was trying to figure out what it said, and to me it says, "Shipwreck, I told you to get out."
I told you to go.
But the voice was so evil and dark, something I've never heard before. I don't know, a human can make that noise or that voice.
Listen.
About the last 5 minutes of audio was inside the house area. The voice itself, it doesn't sound like a human talking. It sounds like something otherworldly. I don't want to say demonic, but honestly, that's the way the voice sounds.
He said, "You've got to listen to this," and he backed the audio up and he played it.
I told you to go.
How? I don't know. This voice that was captured on the audio, to me, sounds like something from The Exorcist. It sounds evil, and to know that it was only Todd and myself in that room, and to have just been in that moment. I mean, this was recorded not probably 15, 20 minutes prior to us listening to this, and the audio was so, like, scary to me personally that I didn't even want to keep listening to it.
I told you to go.
That's a very strong entity. It was captured right when I was touching the door handle, like that was the breaking point.
I told you to go.
This spirit had had enough of us being there and wanted to say with no uncertain terms that we needed to get out of there. It wasn't even a questionable thing. It was loud, it sounded angry, and it sounded evil.
When that voice said that, even though we didn't hear it in the moment, that's pretty much when we left. That's when I said, I can't do this anymore.
This was probably the most scariest voice on recorder that we've ever heard from a spiritual energy, yes.
We were all legitimately scared when we heard that audio. The thing about that island is there's no way off of it in the middle of the night. The ferry comes, I think, twice a day. So when you're on the island, you're on the island. There's nowhere else to go.
I couldn't wait to get home. I had a dream about that voice. It was sheer terror. I was the first one up. I was the first one packed. I couldn't wait to leave. I just wanted to get home and get as far away as I possibly could from Beaver Island.
After I heard the voice of the spiritual energy, I just wanted off the island, to be honest with you. It was just frightening. It was very frightening.